Two things have happened in quick succession in Kenya. And the reason why I'd like to focus on them is because the full impact of these two recent events, most people have missed. The impact is huge. Going forward, my friends, the impact is huge. The two events I'm talking about is the resignation, very sudden resignation, of billionaire US envoy Meg Whitman. Yeah, I'm sure we all know what resignation means. When you say I've handed in my resignation, it means you're gone. The other event was a presser that sent shockwaves right across government. We can tell that from the reaction, the very immediate, panicky reaction. Yeah. The presser was the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, who came out and spoke how virtually every Kenyan would speak today. They spoke the truth. They spoke even more bluntly than opposition politicians. But do those still exist? Anyway, they spoke even more bluntly than opposition politicians would do. They did not sugarcoat. They used phrases like masked policemen. Hey, that phrase alone. A policeman who is masked. Why? How? Ulisikia wapi? Yeah, of course, they were talking about the abductions. Now, these two events are major. Okay? And that is what we're going to focus on my show today. It is going to be a super fascinating show. We too will not miss any words, and I'm sure at the end of it all, we will understand a lot of things that may not be very clear right now. Now, a brief message before we proceed. We are heading very rapidly to the holiday season, and this holiday season is going to be like no other. Yeah, there have been so many layoffs, the economy is in trouble, etc., etc. And therefore, one of the tools that many of us in this channel will find very useful is something called LemFi, the sponsors for our show today. Now, this is an app that allows you to send money to loved ones. It's very easy to use, it has many advantages, and you can even get a cashback reward if you use Kumekucha's code, which is Kumekucha. I'm sure you can see it on your screens right now. Please give it a try, and please let me know how it goes, because so far we have had mostly very positive feedback. Right, let's get down to business. Now, concerning this sudden resignation of the US envoy, Meg Whitman, most of us will remember that just a handful of days before, Meg Whitman had issued another statement, very defensive, after she was bombarded by so many attacks from Kenyans, so much criticism, people writing directly to President-elect Trump, begging him to recall Whitman as one of the very, very first things he settles down to do when he takes office in January. Meg Whitman responded in a very cocky statement. Of course, it was in polite language, but the long and short of what she was saying is that I'm here on behalf of the US government. There is a change, yes, and things are going to happen, but the new president is being sworn in next year. That was the long and short of what she said. So, what happened? So that just a few days later, she comes back with a very different statement, very different tone, the long and short of which was, I am gone. I have resigned. What happened in between? Because something must have happened. But before we go very deeply into that, let us finish, first of all, with these Catholic bishops' manenos. Now, you know, most of us get it wrong. Most of us do not understand what the Catholic Church is all about worldwide. Most of us do not understand the political clout and power of the Catholic Church worldwide. Yeah, and by the way, this did not start yesterday. Read your history. Okay? Most of us, very important, do not understand the financial clout of the Catholic Church. I too, as a young journalist in the 80s and 90s, did not understand. Okay? I did not understand why the Moi regime was going into such panic. And it was just a mere statement. Si ni kanisa tu, kwani iko nini? I found out why Moi was so panicky when the Catholic bishops came out to criticize him. Just to get a very quick glimpse into what I'm saying, yeah, just a tip of the iceberg, but you'll understand where I'm going. Why don't you visit Westlands and try and ask around? Don't go very far away from Oyakiwe. Just ask around about the property owners of prime property, both commercial and residential, in that area. Then you'll begin to understand. I believe we all know that the Catholic Church owns many hospitals right across the country, schools and institutions. Okay? In other words, they come into direct contact with the horrors, the messes of the Ruto regime on a daily basis. And I believe that one of the things that has happened here is that some people have just gotten fed up. Yeah, and since they have the power, and since they can speak, they have come out and spoken on behalf of the long-suffering Kenyans. You can be very sure that Kenyans, even those who are not Catholics, are wildly cheering on at what this bishop said, because they spoke nothing but the truth. But what really beats me is the response from the government. Hey, I mean, is this government serious? You know, you cannot change public opinion. You can't. If the public feel a certain way and you're ruling, you're the ruler, you cannot change what they feel. You cannot change their opinion in any way, even if you use force. And therefore, what intelligent governments do all over the world is they take a different route to solve this kind of problem. Yeah? If you're the UDA Kenya Kwanza government, what do? You can change the narrative. For instance, talk about other things which are linked. Shift the focus of the public away from that statement. You focus on damage control. Okay? You become very strategic. But what did the Kenya Kwanza UDA government do? For starters, it was very clear that the thinking behind the vast majority of politicians and even government officials who responded to this was, you people are criticizing us. You did not criticize President Uhuru Kenyatta because he's a Catholic, and us people were not Catholics. That was the petty, childish approach of this government, which of course is rubbish. Trying to imply that former President Uhuru Kenyatta was a Catholic and some people are not Catholics, and that is why all this maneno is there, is just, I don't even know what word to use. But even more importantly, what the government did in this response was to cut its own feet What they did with this response was to damage themselves. Let me explain. Those Kenyans who may have missed the presser or news about the presser definitely got to hear of these manenos from the government response. In other words, the government assisted the Catholics to spread their message further and wider. How does a government make such a blunder? How does a government make such basic, very basic, standard 2, grade 2, whatever, mistakes? How? What is going on with this government? Huh? Hey! This is very bad for the Ruto regime. One of the reasons being, Moi, the second president of Kenya, understood. Yeah? But still, he was not able to stop the impact and the effect of this attack from the Catholic Church. The Ruto regime has no clue, has no idea, does not understand. So what chance do you think they have? They're going. Obviously. They are gone, in fact. It is just a matter of time. Something else very important, worth noting. Usually, most of the times, when the Catholic Church speaks, it has consulted widely and usually has massive support outside the church by the time they come out with a statement like this one on the state of affairs in the nation. Let me just give you a quick example. In 1992, the Catholic bishops issued a very strongly worded stand statement against the government of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. And if my memory serves me right, they were the first to come out in public and say it openly that the clashes which had just started with the resumption of multi-party politics into Kenya, that those clashes were being financed by the government of Moi. The insecurity was being financed by the government of Moi. They were one of the first people to come out and announce that to the world in clear language. Now at that time, there was also a very huge problem in Mombasa with Muslim clerics. And the Catholics took a very strong position, in speaking about the human rights violations, against the Muslims. Now I can see the reaction of some of us. Huh? Chris? I can see that reaction. Read your history, my friends. Read your history. There is a historical background. The Catholics and the Muslims back each other in many, many ways. And that is a story, a very long one, for another day. But my point here is that this thing is even much more serious than the clueless UDA Kenya Kwanza government is thinking. Oh yes, these people, you can be sure, have massive support. And not just from ordinary Kenyans, most of whom are very delighted that finally somebody has come out and spoken their mind so eloquently, and put everything on the table so clearly. Exactly what they are saying is what the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops said. Shall I cut the Kizungu Mingi down and speak openly and bluntly in one single sentence? Okay. There is no government in the world that has survived for long. It doesn't matter whether you like this or not. These are just facts. There is no regime in the world that has ever survived for long after losing the support of the Catholic Church. Do your research. And to be clear, I am not a Catholic, My parents were never Catholics, and indeed I have issues with some of the doctrines of the Catholic Church. But that does not matter. The truth is the truth, the facts are the facts. I just wanted to make sure that no government blogger comes in my comments area after this and says, Chris is saying these things because he's a Catholic. I just wanted to make sure that does not happen. Okay? My apologies if I have offended any of my Catholic friends. On to Meg Whitman. To understand her resignation, it is important to understand the way the US government operates. There are these guys called the State Department. The State Department are the folks who run things. And these people are paid to see the future. These people are paid to position the United States of America and her interests so that they are not impacted negatively when things start changing and when the future looks very different from the cozy, very advantageous present that government may be enjoying. Okay? That is very important to note if you want to understand how come somebody comes out today and says something, and then a few days later they not only say something very different, but they also take a very drastic action and they resign. This, of course, is very bad news for the Ruto regime, because it means, as usual, the American State Department is on top of the situation, and what they're very busy doing right now is preparing for the future. And that future they're preparing for does not include the Ruto regime. That is the truth. That is what we're seeing right before our eyes. And that is why there are some very interesting political times ahead of us as Kenyans. I'm sure many of you will agree with me. Now, very quickly before I go, this has to be the absolutely last call for my special offer on a highly sensitive special report I have produced, on a character bang in the middle of the UDA powerhouse, okay, FK. Now, this is a highly sensitive special report. It has a lot of information that will make your eyes pop. Oh yes. And I'm certain it will help anybody understand a lot about where we are politically as a country. Now, you can see details on your screens right now. For only Kenya shillings 1,999, you'll not only have this latest highly sensitive special report, but you'll also have all the other previous ones, in case you've missed all of them, or in case you've missed some of them. Okay? The details are also repeated in the description area below this video on YouTube, and also in the comments area. I highly recommend it. When the kipindi chalala salama, please take full advantage, because this may be your very last chance to do so. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.